All right, guys, welcome to another Couch Talks. It's just going to be Xill and I today. We have some snow here in the Denver area, so traffic and the weather have conspired to keep the Rye Guy away from us for this episode. But as always, if you like what we're doing here, please remember to smash, destroy, and otherwise obliterate that like button and give us a share to your friends. I think today we're going to talk about Final Fantasy, because we actually haven't talked about Final Fantasy, specifically Final Fantasy 14, the MMORPG variant, because there's basically 150,000 versions of Final Fantasy. Would you like to kick us off?
Sure. So, what is your favorite job?
My favorite job. My favorite job in Final Fantasy 14 is going to have to be the warrior, followed fairly closely by Red Mage, who I've learned to enjoy more and more because as a DPS, you just have no responsibility and it's great. You just got to do damage.
DPS has, I don't know, maybe this is because I used to do raiding and like although I wasn't competitive in the sense that I could have actually gone out and gotten sponsors, I did have a very competitive mindset with it. DPS is the most responsibility.
Well, I mean, like for me, as usually playing the tank, I don't get to see those big numbers as much.
Yeah.
Honestly, the tanking in Final Fantasy 14 is some of the easiest tanking I think that I've witnessed and seen. So like when I play DPS, but at the same time you have the responsibility of making sure that you gather aggro and know where to position the boss if that's necessary. Otherwise, you just murder all your friends. But as a DPS, like your job is to deal damage and dodge. You don't have to worry about nobody else is relying on you in any way except that you need to keep your damage output up.
I guess it is definitely true that like I feel like tanks and healers have very obvious responsibilities.
Noelle thinks she's a DPS.
If you mess up your responsibility as a tank, somebody's getting attacked who shouldn't be. If you mess it up as a healer, somebody goes down when they could have not gone down. So it's very obvious when you fail at your responsibilities, but I feel like the bar in terms of like, if you're an okay healer, your group will still get through.
Yeah.
And that's true of any of them. I don't know. I guess just because, like, when I'm DPSing, there's a very obvious bar of, like, okay, well, the bar I set for myself is what's the number one DPS on my team. I'm going to move up there, and then I'm going to move up to the server, and then the data center, and
that's fair.
I don't even know.
I know, this is some pretty intense talk for intro to Final Fantasy stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not just like I love I love the dungeons and knowing how to and what to do in them is very important for sure for getting through the storyline and everything else. But let's rewind / change the subject a little bit and let's talk about what we really like about Final Fantasy 14. Like, let's start from the ground up. Like, when you first started playing, besides me playing with you, what did you really like about Final Fantasy 14?
I didn't have to make more than one character to experience the whole game. Like, technically you do. For example, if you start like I did in Limsa and you wanted to... I didn't start in Limsa. If you start like I did in Gridania, and you wanted to go do Limsa, there we go. Then you would have to roll it out, which is actually what I did. I wanted to see the Limsa starting area, so I made an ult to go through that. But aside from that, you can experience the entire game on one character, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, and there's only really a few, I think up to level 15 maybe, a few unique quests in each starting zone. Otherwise, I mean, everybody can participate in the same starting areas. So one of the things that Final Fantasy XIV has really done well is that they've managed to get their instancing. I'm not exactly sure what the actual term they use for it is, but like you can be standing next to your friend and they can be talking to somebody, an NPC, but you don't know that NPC exists because you haven't unlocked that quest or whatnot, or maybe it's a class quest. so only they can experience slash see that in PC. So it's pretty cool because no matter where you're at in the storyline, you still get to play with your friends. Most of the time. There's the examples where, like, you have to leave the party to go enter an instance of your own to, like, beat a boss or whatnot. Complete certain storyline objectives, both character, class, and otherwise. But, so I always kind of thought that was super cool. Being able to play any of the classes on one character is, I think, probably my overall favorite thing about the game. Also, it's a fun story. Like, Final Fantasy always does a fun story. Sometimes it's a bit corny, and it definitely has the classic arc of we're going to go off and save the world. But it's fun to me. Like, it's neat to have that main storyline. You're making each player feel kind of like the center of the universe of the game, even though you're on an MMO with all your friends. So that's always been really cool. The new patch just dropped, which is introducing all kinds of cool quality of life and other fun stuff. I don't know the whole list off the top of my head, but one of the things I'm most excited about is the expansion of the FC chess.
I was just about to say that if you didn't.
Yeah.
Because we need space.
Yeah. We've gone through what, three expansions now? 4 games. Where the FC chests have been pretty limited. They have 3 tabs. They have about as much inventory space as like the original retainers before their inventory was expanded, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And for an entire free company, which is not always a little tiny free company like ours, with a total of like 5 active players. Most of these free companies, have 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100 players, and I can't imagine how they use their free company chest, or how, or what. Like, what are they even putting in there? Anything at all? Yeah. What else is this expansion? I keep saying expansion, it's just a patch. This patch giving us... Fishing, that's right. Some really cool fishing stuff. You go ahead.
So now that I have completed most of the quests and most of the fish catches for the Neptune Dragon quest line, they have made it significantly easier to catch almost all of those fish because they reduced the cost of patience. So if you want to go do the Neptune Dragon line, you can do it now. Mooching is a little easier. Basically, patience makes it easier to catch HQ fish, and for several of the big fish, you have to catch an HQ fish in order to catch the big fish you're actually looking for. So, yeah. More importantly, and on a less bitter note,
yeah,
they are adding ocean fishing, which you get on a boat and sail out and catch fish. You get scripts for going. I haven't been able to go yet because I've been playing this exciting game called Quantum Mechanics Homework. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's true. I look over at what she's doing and it just looks like a completely different language. I don't know. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not one of these guys that has every class to max level. I think I only have 1 class to max level and a crafting class just a couple levels for max level. Otherwise, I'm kind of spread all over the board. Just because, I don't... And the dog's going to play with their squeaky toy now right in the middle of the video, because that's how that goes. Noelle, come here!
She's going to bring the squeaky toy, CJ.
Well, that's fine. I'll just take it away from her. Come here! Come here! Alright. So anyway, So, like, I'm not one of those guys that has every class to level 80, even though I love the game and want to play. I want to play. It's just not worth it to me to spend that much time getting every single class to cap. Now, if eventually I'd like to, I think that'd be really cool, but, I also want to play other video games. Like, Batman, Arkham Knight, or even some of the real-time strategy games that I enjoy, like StarCraft and such. So
I start playing Pokemon.
Yeah, and there's and then they're coming out with or they just came out with the new Pokemon, and so we're gonna probably pick that up. So, well, for the Switch, right? The Sword and Shield.
Oh, that's not. I ordered Let's Go.
Well, I know, but like we're also playing.
But neither of those is really new.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're fairly new.
Okay.
They came out a couple months ago, right?
I mean, I guess Sword and Shield came out in November.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess not that new, but still, it'll be new to us. Because we're broke college students. So, we're going to get that stuff and play that. But, I mean, my point is like, I really feel like the game allows you to pick the game up, participate in the story, have a great time, and then put it back down again and go off and play other games.
And the content doesn't just disappear.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of, or at least, in WoW, you have this problem where if you didn't clear the raid when it was current content, you're not gonna clear it because now the level, like at that level, you don't have the right abilities, or everything's just off balance, or you just can't find anyone to run it and there's no reason to. Whereas you still get to, like, the request for all the raids, it syncs you down to the correct level and item level, and then aside from one issue with one of the raids, they're still all doable despite all the changes across the expansions.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one raid boss I'm thinking of is still technically doable. It's just kind of silly because there used to be a tank ability that prevented you from getting critted. So this raid boss is designed to crit you every time it hits for a certain phase, and the tanks swap out whenever they run out of their buff. That buff no longer exists, so it turns into this weird how many people can resurrect. That's who's swapping, is the rezzers, not the tanks. But yeah, they do a really good job letting you go back and do all the content without it just being this weird, like, feeling like you're doing something you're not supposed to do anymore.
Yeah, and that's all due to I think, perfect segue into one of my favorite things that Final Fantasy XIV does that I don't know why more MMOs don't do it, which is the syncing.
Yeah.
Like, they sync your level to the level of whatever dungeon or content in dungeons and instances like that you're doing, so that you can run the level 20 dungeon with your friend who just started and it still be somewhat of a challenge. Like, a lot of that stuff's been you definitely have the best stats possible for the dungeon, all that stuff, but like it still makes it more fun than rolling through it and carrying the crew. You're level 1000 effectively, and everybody else is level 2.
Uh-huh. And they do a good job of warning you for helping people with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Even if you are not taking one of your low-level classes. Usually just because you don't have one, that's the only reason not to.
Yeah. So, I think that the syncing thing is really cool. I'd really like to see them expand the level syncing to, like, something like sync my level to the level of the person or lowest level person in the party, or even pick one of the party members.
A better overworld syncing system would be good, because the fates, which are just kind of like random timed events, Guild Wars 2 did something very similar. You can sync your level to those.
Fairly common mechanic now in MMOs.
Yeah, it is now. I just can't think of any other examples.
I think, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. I played it for a while with Russell, my friend Russell. But there was another MMO that had a very similar fate system like that, where it's an overworld event, effectively. Tells it's usually a small story unto itself, and you get extra rewards for completing these events.
Yeah. So if you wanted to sync your level to one of those, that's totally doable. But if your friend is just questing and they're like, I need to kill 5 pirates, you better hope you have something at level 10 to 15, because you're not going to sync your level 50 ninja down to them.
Yeah, and that would be, I think that's like one of the few things they don't have yet that would be really, really cool. But one of the neat things they added in the most recent expansion actually were you could take some of the NPCs who you've been participating with in the storyline for 3 games now into dungeons with you. So you'd have be like your character. It'd be these 3 NPCs, and you could roll through the dungeon. And it was really cool because they have all kinds of fun, interesting, and unique conversations. But my only complaint about that is you can't be like Xill and I and 2 NPCs going through a dungeon, just because sometimes we don't want to deal with other humans and their weirdness,
Or, sometimes it's like, cool, we only need 1 person. We can get in right now if we could just take
an NPC.
Bandgrid for our tank.
Yeah. I mean, if you're watching this and haven't played Final Fantasy XIV before, all the hype you hear about the most recent expansion, I feel like is true. It is a great, amazing expansion. And if you're a experienced gamer, you could buy the level potion and get yourself into the newest expansion right off the bat. That being said, I encourage you to play the story. It's a fun, interesting story.
I also feel like if you skipped the story, you wouldn't get the same impact out of Shadowbringers.
I am inclined to agree, but I think it would still be very enjoyable for somebody who didn't know. I 100%.
Both of the main non-player characters, you need all that context.
Yeah, I still think it'd be very enjoyable. I don't think it would be as enjoyable. I think you're going to miss out on some unique dialogue options and really miss out on some references that they make and stuff like that. And you're also not going to know who all these NPCs that you're teaming up with are. But that being said, if you just want to get in the game and join your friends who have already been playing for a year and a half, get in there, get a level potion, skip all that content, and if you're an experienced gamer, you pick it up in no time. It's a very straightforward game. And you can always roll an alt to experience the storyline otherwise.
You can also just make your friends help you because they get stuff out of it.
It's true.
So don't let them force you to skip the story if you don't want to.
Yeah, that's facts. Like, they do get stuff for helping you, and also, honestly, it's pretty easy to level. You just push the main storyline, and we have a couple friends who joined a week ago, 2 weeks ago now?
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and they're playing like 3 times a week, maybe, for like a few hours, and they're already level 30 almost. And I'd say they're not playing for more than like 4 hours at a time, 3 days a week tops.
Definitely. That's definitely the maximum.
Mm-hmm. What? Am I not paying attention to you? I am so paying. Look what I have in my hand.
Yes, that's mine.
I think that Final Fantasy XIV is a great MMO, and if you like MMOs and are looking for a good MMO to get into, it's a good option to get into. I don't know what else you know what else I really like? I like the housing, even though there's a lot of flaws with it that I don't like, but it's not so much I don't like how they have it set up. I don't like the execution, I guess. So the housing in Final Fantasy XIV is limited, very limited. You buy a plot, and then that plot goes off the market, and there's only so many wards with so many plots. Which, makes it a very, kind of special commodity in-game.
It's not based on the number of players.
Yes, it's not based on the number of players or anything like that. So in my defense for why I like that kind of system, I think that it's fun and unique. Also, I do feel like they were going to add several housing areas that they just never got around to actually adding.
Yeah, I feel like there's only one, and they're hinting pretty hard at it right now that they're about to put it in.
Yeah.
They haven't made any official announcements, but there's a lot of dialogue from recent, not this patch, but 2 patches ago. So the last major patch, that they're going to be doing something with that. And it might just turn out to be housing for NPCs. but they have been adding new wards at least.
Yeah, so they've been adding new wards. So, but I don't know. My theory is like when I went through the Heavensward expansion, I felt like there were hints about housing everywhere. I felt like there were several quests in several different locations that were like kind of seemed to be leading up to a housing area. You go into Ishgard and they're all about, we need to rebuild. We're going to start rebuilding. We're going to do this rebuilding effort. And that's actually the housing area that is being hinted at right now. And with the firmaments and that whole system, which is pretty cool. They're basically rebuilding Foundation, part of Ishgard. And it seems like it's going to turn into a housing area, optimistically.
Yeah. One of the NPCs said that they were going to put housing there, much like they have in the other cities which have player housing. However, there have been no official announcements that player housing will actually happen. So they basically said, hey, here's a really big hint that we're going to do this, and then didn't announce it just in case they decide not to.
Yeah, but I do feel like in Heavensward in general, there were several places where they could have and were thinking about putting housing.
Yeah.
Because it felt like in Idyllshire, which I like to call Italyshire. So, if I say that, I'm sorry, but anyway. In Idyllshire, the goblins are all about like, oh, we're a big community and we don't care where you're from and this, that, and the other thing. And there's all kinds of other like kind of more subtle hints that they are, they're trying to encourage people to move there and live there and participate in their community. And it does turn into the in-game zone for that expansion. But I also just kind of felt like there were hints being dropped about potential housing there. And I think that'd be a really cool housing area also. We in the previous expansion in Stormblood, they added a new housing area in Kugane? In Kugane? Isn't that the?
Yes.
Yeah. Which I don't remember the housing area's name. It was really cool, beautiful housing area, very Oriental style, beautiful.
Sold out immediately.
Which is okay. Like that's when we got our house originally. Our first guild house was one of the small lots in Ward 1, no less. So that was pretty cool. But in Limsa. But anyway, that housing area didn't make a lot of sense. I'm glad they added it. It was neat. It was fun. But they took this very like city that's very unfriendly towards outsiders and gave us a housing area. It was really bizarre to me. And then we go off and we save that kingdom over there, which is totally slipping my mind the name of that kingdom. Doma, thank you. And we even help rebuild it, but we don't get a housing area out of it. So I don't know. That just seemed weird to me. And then we go, once we're done with that, not really rebuilding, but once we're done saving them, we go back to Eorzea and we save Alamigo, and which is this huge city, right? Like there's pretty much already housing built, and they very well could have just been like, cool, we're a huge city and we need population, here's a housing area. That would have been a very easy thing to do, but they didn't. So Stormblood to me was like for housing very disappointing, because I felt like they added housing in the most illogical spot and then just ignored the logical spots for housing, which both would have been very unique and very different and very fun and flavorful, neat housing areas.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Doma would have made sense, because Doma's also not friendly to outsiders, and they rebuilt it for themselves.
Yeah, but you help, we help as the Warrior of Light. We roll in and give them basically trillions of gil worth of.
If you go through the crafter quest lines, I think Kugane makes a little more sense, because I don't feel like they talked about this nearly as much with the combat class quests, but going through all the crafters and also doing the best friend turn-ins, they definitely made a point of being like, well, there's this thing going on. They also talked about a little in Samurai, but that's because it's Samurai. Kugane is just Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did talk about there being like people trying to push for more interaction with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Or even just, it wasn't on a very big scale, but it was definitely like there were people who wanted more interaction.
I just think that they took an area that the least friendly to outsider area, except for maybe the pirates.
Like the pirates would have been more happy about the extras.
Yeah.
They don't have extra houses.
Yeah, no, exactly. So they basically took the least friendly area to us and gave us housing at it, which, while great and beautiful and all that stuff, it was just in storyline, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. I am not, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about it. It's an amazing housing area, but also a little bitter that I wasn't able to get in there because I logged in at 4 a.m. and it was painful, but...
Yeah, you logged in at 4 a.m. and all we got was a small house.
Yeah, in Limsa, which is one of my overall favorite housing area, I think.
With the last one, we got a medium house.
Yep, it's true. For our guild, it's awesome. Pretty excited about it. Yes, Noelle. Anyway, well, that's some of our thoughts on Final Fantasy XIV. Do you have anything to add? Wrap this up, maybe?
The crafters and gatherers.
Crafters and gatherers. Oh yeah, the craft.
Amazingly interactive.
Yes, the crafting and the gathering are both probably some of the best gathering and crafting in an MMO that I've played. Because you have all these different actions you can do to change the outcomes and the amount of stuff you get, the quality of stuff you get, and all that stuff. It's really, really neat. And again, you can do all of the stuff on one character because it's always kind of blown my mind that they're like, you can only have 2 professions. You can only have 1 profession in so many MMOs. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's to encourage trade, but what happens is people just roll 5 alts.
Yeah.
To get all of them, and then it just becomes an inconvenience.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Like I think the trade houses in Final Fantasy don't seem to be hurting because of it. So I think that's just a flawed excuse at the end of the day. Although I wish people would stop putting stuff up for vendor price because everybody's losing money at that point.
I make money.
Well, yeah, if you can sell it again, but.
I've actually stopped doing that. I need to start doing that again because I have room again.
Yeah.
But yeah, made a lot of gil just buying up everything that was posted for vendor price or less, and then dropping it in the Doma box, which is up to 40,000 a week at double the normal vendor price.
Yeah. It's pretty silly. I don't know why people do that. Just not paying attention or something, but
yeah.
It is what it is. Anyway, so that's a little bit about Final Fantasy. Maybe we'll do another episode on it, and instead of just covering random things, be a little bit more focused. But you know what? We never actually got what your favorite class is.
I really like the Scholar and the Summoner.
Yeah.
I play Scholar mostly because it gets faster queues. But I think I like them equally. I'm just better at Scholar because I play it more.
Yeah.
I also think Scholar's a lot simpler.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah.
Well, that's just kind of our rambling talk about Final Fantasy. Maybe next time we'll do like a class by class breakdown how we feel about them or something. That sounds kind of fun. Mm-hmm. Anyway, you guys have a good day/night. And as always, thanks for watching. Please make sure to hit that like button, give us a share, give us a subscribe, all that jazz.